Well then, we're back with another live one for all you Biconics wrestling nerds out there. And welcome to another exciting episode of Los Chicos Gordos, your tag team review for NXT on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. This let me preface by saying it was a lot of wrestling that day. It's now etched in my memory because I watched Dynamite and NXT because they decided to air on the same night. But the beautiful thing is that me and my co-host Will here got to do something that we normally don't get to do. We actually got to watch NXT together as it was happening. Kind of. Check the Patreon exclusive whenever that drops because you could see our unfiltered reactions because YouTube would not be so nice to if we uploaded what we were talking about. But Will, happy to have you back, my friend. How are you this fine evening?
I'm good. I'm very good. And I'm excited to talk about this episode because there was some really interesting stuff going on. And some stuff that on a just an every normal Tuesday, Wednesday that just get under my skin.
And I am sure we will get into those because it was really hard not to dissect everything that we watched when we watched NXT together. But so this NXT was really interesting because again, we are 2 weeks out from the first week of Halloween Havoc, which I'm excited for. Especially, as we're supposed to be building towards Halloween Havoc. We really only have one official match confirmed. Well, two technically by the end of this episode. And for some reason, they took a pit stop this week because with AEW Dynamite airing on Tuesday, because baseball starts on Wednesday over on TNT land. No, TBS land. NXT decided to load up on main roster peoples, and some worked, some didn't. But we'll talk about it. We'll get into it. This one was interesting. I enjoyed some of it, but I had questions about other ones.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, let's just jump right in. So, after we get the opening for WWE, the NXT audience is greeted to the one American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, who comes down to the ring. So Cody Rhodes, being on Monday Night Raw, comes down. He not necessarily cuts a promo, but he is your master of ceremonies, and we will be seeing him throughout the night. But essentially, for Cody's part, the announcements that he has to make is that the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic is coming back to NXT, which makes me excited. And what that is that it is a men's. I'm assuming it's just going to be the men's because Lord have mercy, we don't have a lot of women's tag teams now. That a lot of them have either been split, hurt, or thrown up on the main roster doing nothing. So that hurts me. But the Dusty Rhodes Classic will be coming back, so we'll be having the men's tag team division go through this tournament. The winner will be have their tag team name etched on the Dusty Road Tag Team Trophy, but they will also get a shot at the NXT Tag Team Championships down the line for winning the tournament. So that's awesome. We also get confirmation that the NXT Men's Breakout Tournament will be happening shortly after the Women's Breakout Tournament finishes, which I'm excited for because I wanted to see which men's talent's going to be involved in that. And then Cody also states that he will be the special general manager for the evening. So he has all the booking power. And I put that in air quotes because everything has been predetermined. But he's going to be the on-screen character to make all these things happen. So, Will, this was your first introduction into the American Nightmare himself. Before we jump into everything that happened after these announcements, what did you think of Cody Rhodes?
He was okay. I didn't necessarily have any issues with him. I thought, other than my usual rant about, main roster type people coming over to NXT and sort of taking the spotlight, and that kind of drives me crazy. although I'm like this, it's cool. I mean, what he had to say was great. I don't know, and I could go off all night on this, but and again, it's nothing against Cody Rhodes. Okay, what he was doing, he was doing. My whole thing is I hate when they bring main roster people into NXT, and I know I'm going to be a broken record here, and they overshadow NXT, and not because they're better wrestlers, but because they're so hyped that the NXT wrestlers tend to get pushed to the back. And it's this, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday when we were watching it, and the idea of the savior trope, and that's what it feels like a lot of the times. It's like, oh look, we have to bring the main roster people in to save everything, and that really bugs me. Now, again, I have nothing against Cody Rhodes. I thought he came in and he was very powerful presence, and he was spoke well. He was, his dressing needed a little bit of a dressing because I don't know who coordinated his suit because it was really bad. I mean, I'm sorry, blue pocket square, and then that sort of foamy green tie, and then he looked like he was wearing clown shoes. And I'm like, what? Who dressed you, dude? You need to fire whoever dressed you because that was bad. And his hair looked fried. I mean, like, it looked like if you touched it, it would have just like turned to like ash. I mean, it was like, oof. So yeah, but other than that, I thought the guy was really great. I thought he had, he spoke well. He was articulate. He was charismatic. I mean, he was good. I had nothing against the guy at all. I have more against like the higher ups and their constant need to bring in main roster people for some reason.
Yeah, so I'm a little biased because I totally agree with you because the NXT kids deserve like the spotlight on their own, but it's really really hard because I do watch, well, I mean, I have to watch the main product because, well, number one, I review it. I do review Raw and SmackDown because me and John and Evan, all three of us decided to bite the bullet because nobody else is going to watch Raw or SmackDown, so we decided. But I do like the main roster stars, and we got to see a lot of them. We got to see some fun ones down here. Like, we're going to talk about her a little bit, but like, I'm unapologetically an Asuka stan. I will forever love her. Like, Cody Rhodes is awesome. I love him too. But as Cody kind of finishes up this, our NXT champion, Mr. Ilya Dragunov, comes out to the ring. And listen, Ilya, we love you in this household, but there's only one critique that I had, and it's why are we not wearing socks in those dress shoes? Like, what happened?
Dude, let me tell you, and he shaved and he looks so good. I was like, oh my gosh. It was so funny. He walked into the ring and I was like, there's something different about him. What is so different about him? And it's like, and then I noticed that he had shaved completely, and I was like, oh my gosh. And it's like, it's great. You go start from the head and start working your way down. You're like, oh, look at him. He is well put together. His suit is like crisp. And then you hit ankles. And it's like, I was like, Mikey, that man is not wearing socks with those shoes. I was like, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. You better put you some dress socks on. Oh my gosh. It was so gross.
We were so close, Ilya. We were so close.
It was so great. I was like, oh my God, he looks so, my God. I was like,
literally the SpongeBob fish. My eyes.
And I'm just saying, that is a deal breaker for me. If you're wearing shoes with no socks, that is a deal breaker. I mean, seriously.
You heard it here first on those Chicos Gordos, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary people of the internet lands. Gross. Ilya, if you're watching this, bro, you need to wear dress socks. Otherwise, it's a no-go with...
It's a no-go for me, man.
It's a no-go for Will over here.
Yeah. Sorry, Ilya, but no. Can't do it. Just can't do it.
Now, Ilya comes out, and he and Cody have a banter back and forth about, respect and all that. And then the most disrespectful ass person that's currently in NXT right now happens to walk on out. It is Dominic Mysterio, who is being accompanied tonight by Miss Rhea Ripley. Hi, Rhea. I love you, girl. But basically, Dominic Mysterio is in delusion land because he tells Ilya, you know, and Rhea kind of chimes into throughout this whole thing that pretty much Dominic is the one who's been carrying NXT and he's the greatest champion of all time, and that, Ilya can put it to the test. And then Rhea Ripley then adds in the fact that, Dominic has been carrying this company since winning this title. I'm like, oh, shut up. I was like, if we're going to lie, let's make it believable at least. And I want to preface by saying I think Dominic and Rhea are awesome people, but their characters are like, ugh. I was like, ugh. Though, listen, if Rhea Ripley wants to step on me, she can do so all she wants. I'm not going to say no. I'm just putting it right there. Listen, I might not like her character, but if given the chance, I'm just saying, uh, move over, Dominic Mysterio. A new Poppy is entering the chat. I'm just saying. But essentially, what this leads to is that Ilya kind of calls a double standard because Dominic wants Ilya to defend his title, but Ilya challenges Dominic saying, "You're not going to defend yours." But that's okay because I'm a fighting champion and I'm going to whoop your ass. So basically, this sets up that later tonight it's going to be Dominic Mysterio taking on Ilya for the NXT Championship. So this was an interesting opening segment. This actually got like 10 minutes, which I was very surprised of how long this went. And then immediately, as soon as this was done, we jumped into our first match. My only critique is it was only 5 minutes, and I was upset of how short it was. So we have our girl Roxanne Perez taking on the Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. And on paper, when we were told that we were getting this match last week, I cried a little bit on the inside because I was like, "Oh my god, this match is gonna be great!" And then before the match even started, my fangirl came out because we also got another NXT return this week from over from the main roster with Shotzi in her little tank. I love Shotzi so much.
She was great.
I love it. Her whole aesthetic is so good with the hair and just the leather, and she looking like she walked out of like the British punk scene. I love the whole aesthetic, and I want more wrestlers to go with that aesthetic. But before we dive into the match, she made an announcement that her and another main roster wrestler, Scarlett, they will be hosting week 1 of Halloween Havoc, which makes me excited because Shotzi has been hosting Halloween Havoc almost every single year since its inception in NXT because this is what she do. She actually is an actress. She did horror movies as well as wrestling, so it's really great. Spoiler alert, Shotzi and the professor here, John, they worked on a few horror movies together, so that's an interesting tidbit for tonight. But enough about that. Let's get into what we're here to talk about, this match. This match fucking ruled.
It did. This was such a damn good match. I mean, I didn't know what I had no expectations because I don't know. Sorry. I don't know her. Except for what you've told me, and I was excited about it because you were excited about it, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds like it's gonna be cool." She came out, and I was like, "Okay, I'm liking her aesthetic. I like what she had going on, the whole kabuki sort of thing," and then she started wrestling, and then of course Roxanne is my girl, and they started wrestling, and I was like, "Wow, she's good." I mean, both of these women are good, but I had never seen Asuka. Is it Asuka?
Asuka.
Asuka, that's what it is. I'm sorry. Asuka, I've never seen her wrestle at all. So this is my first time. And man, it was so good. I mean, hers and Roxanne's styles are so different, but they work so well both for and against each other. And that's what this was a very physical, though short match. And I really wish that this match had been longer. Because this one, I feel like this one should have been longer. Like, why do you bring her in but only give her this little bit, this little bitty time slot. It's like, I mean, because they hyped her up in the few promotions that we got for her, and so I was thinking, oh, this match is gonna it's gonna bang, man, it's gonna be on fire, and it was, but it was a very short-lived fire. And I was like, okay. Now I know that when something happens later on, so it kind of gives me hope that we might see more of Asuka, which I'm kind of excited for. Not kind of, I am excited for. So, and this is one of those, and I know they were using Asuka as a plot device, so I know that that's what she was here for, and so when and normally this is when I would be like bringing main roster people in, and they win these matches and blah 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 blah. But I understood why Asuka had to win this match. I get that, because you're using her as a plot device for Roxanne, not necessarily against her, which I love. So I was not as angry with this match as I thought I was going to be. And again, just for our listeners and viewers to understand something, I have nothing against Asuka as a wrestler at all, or as a person. This is all programming stuff that I have an issue with, not the wrestlers themselves. The wrestlers themselves are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're doing it great. Asuka was amazing. I would love to see her in her natural habitat, whatever that is, wrestling whoever. But this match was amazing. It was so good. I mean, it was so good. When we were watching it, I was like, oh my God, oh my goodness. I was like, oh, a lot of oohs and ahs. And it was so good. But again, it was so short. And I mean, I'm sorry, but I think Roxanne can hold her own. And this is where I thought it was a bit of a disservice, is that it looked as though Roxanne could not hold her own against Asuka, hence why it was so short. And we all know that's not true, because Roxanne's a badass bitch. I mean, she is. She can do it. She can bring it. And she did, but it just was so short, and I hate that it was so short. I just, it's like always the women's matches. It's always the women's matches, and they're like damn good matches, and it's like, okay, you've had a minute of that. We're about done. We're done. And it's like, and then other matches go on for like 10 minutes, and you're just like, why are we watching this for 10 minutes? So, but I really like this. I really liked this fight. It was so good. It started the night off like hot.
It did. And the only thing I'll add to this, because you pretty much said everything that I was going to, for me personally, and this kind of sounds self-serving and self-gratifying here, but I take pride on when I tell people if they're not familiar with a wrestler. I was like, no, I promise me, like, this person is actually really good, and wait until you see it, and I think you'll like it. And I'm always a little worried because, like, if this person doesn't if I'm hyping this person up and then at the end of it, they don't like this person, I was like, well, what does that say about me as a wrestling fan? I'm like, do I actually know what I'm talking about? And there was a small part of me, I was like, well, what if Bill doesn't like Asuka? Like, because I can understand why people don't like her, but I like her, and I think she's awesome, and she can kill it in the ring. Oh my gosh, I hope he likes her. And the fact that she did makes me feel happy, because I was like, I want people to see these wrestlers the way that I do, and how talented they are, and how their in-ring ability is so great. And I'm happy that, I got Asuka another fan, because I loved her since she came to NXT all those years ago. And, while I wish main roster would do more with her, I love this evolution that we have with her, with the makeup and everything. It was great. The only other thing I will also add is that after this match, Kiana James comes out and she tries to, ambush Roxanne and take her out, and then Shotzi throws her out of the ring, as she should. So, again, we're progressing storylines. Roxanne and Kiana are still feuding, are still fighting each other, and I'm excited to see what comes from that. And again, the first 30 minutes was just like boom, boom, boom. Like we got things to do, Because then we immediately jump into our next match, and I don't care what nobody says, this is my match of the night. This was the Pub Rules match between the Brawling Brutes and Tyler Bate taking on all three Gallus boys. Jiminy H. Christmas, William. This match was insane. It was,
Oh,
oh
did
my
you?
gosh.
I'm sorry. Before we get into that, did you talk? Did you talk about Shotzi coming in and?
Yep, she threw
Oh my!
Kiana out, and then she
Was
raised
I didn't?
Roxanne's
Okay,
hand.
cool. I didn't know if you had touched on that or not. I didn't hear it. So,
Right.
but yeah, that was such a good moment.
That was, and again, like I said, the Pub Rules match is my match of the night, only just because of how ridiculous and how this was so much fun. And there were, listen, from the get go, like everyone's fighting each other. Butch takes Joe Coffey's hand and like sticks a dart through it. I was just like, oh, we're not even a minute into this match, and we already have the propensity for violence.
Oh my
I
god,
love it.
man.
Let's see some of the other spots that stood out to me. He just Butch going through the table with the peanuts and beer. Rich Holland breaking a pool stick off of one of the Gallus boys. The keg being used as a weapon and just being thrown or people landing on it. There was a trash can spot. Then Tyler Bate, breaking the glass with his hand and then throwing it into Joe Coffey's face. I was like, that is the most violent thing I have seen, and I'm here for it.
Oh yeah. Did you mention the dart?
I did.
Okay, I didn't hear.
That
I'm sorry.
imagery
I'm
is
having
burned
hearing
into
issues.
my memory.
Oh my god, it was brilliant.
That imagery is burned into my memory.
It was so good. I was, and it was so funny because I was, when we were watching it, I kept telling Mikey, I was like, Butch needs to get revenge against Joe Coffey. He needs to do something because he cost him that match. So he needs to have some kind of vengeance here. And man, when he stabbed that dart into his hand, I was like, oh my God, how beautiful is that? That was sweet, sweet revenge. And I love it. And this is like Butch because he goes for the digits. And man, it was painful. I know all this is, I know he didn't really get stabbed, but man, it looked like he did. And God, it was so good. And yeah, this match, because we both went into this going, what the hell is pub? What is this? What's Pub Rules? I don't understand what this is. I kind of had an inkling of what it might be because I am, the stereotypical pub brawls, but I wasn't expecting all the accoutrement everywhere. Like it was an extreme match, with chairs and tables and glasses full of beer. And I mean, when he breaks that glass, man, I was just like, holy crap. It was just so good. I was literally on the edge of my seat this whole match. I was literally like this the whole time going, oh my God, oh my God. It was so good. God, it was so good. Ugh.
This match was so much fun. And then, of course, Tyler Bate scoring the win, throwing Joe Coffey through the table, pinning him for the 1-2-3. And so the Brawling Brutes and Tyler Bate win. And me and Will kind of talked about this after the match. I think this chapter is done between these two groups. And I'm interested to see where the next chapter goes with everyone involved. And then immediately the hits just keep rolling because this is when we get into our video package and the backstage. Like we're gonna put the backstage interview together. So a video package plays. They first talk about Becky Lynch. She has a new memoir coming out. I love the picture on her memoir. It looks really great. And I was like, I love Becky, so I'm already biased. And then and since we recorded our reaction to NXT, we almost recorded ourselves crying because this vignette they played that was talking about Becky versus Lyra at Halloween Havoc and giving a personal history of how these two know each other, and then we got like footage from them all the way in Ireland and training and everything, and just I was about to cry. I was like, this is how we do a video package, you guys. Like NXT. They killed it with this one, and the emotions were real.
I was teary eyed. There were tears in my eyes when I was watching that that promo. It was so good. It was so well done. It made me appreciate both of these, actually not just both of these women, but all the women that were training, because there was a whole bunch of them training, and it was just so. And again, this is again, this goes back to my whole, I love classy wrestlers. I love wrestlers who understand sportsmanship. They understand that what we do is what we do, but we respect one another, whether we're fighting against each other or for each other. We still respect each other no matter what, because you're only as strong as those who lead you. And Becky Lynch is so inspiring. I mean, that whole thing, I was like, I want you to train me. I know I'm not a woman, but I mean, I want, I was inspired. I was just like, and then they were showing all that footage from when they were training, and the music under it was really nice, and the voiceover was great. And I mean, we were both like, oh my god, that is how you do a video package. That is how it's done, because it got us emotionally, it got us mentally, and it got us physically. I mean, I was invested, and it was one of those wonderful things, because I'll say it was very inspiring. I mean, if there are little girls out there and they watch that video promo and they have dreams of like being wrestlers, man, that is the one you want to watch. I mean, truly, because it was so inspiring that it literally was like, I want to train. I want to be a wrestler. I was like, but I want to be a wrestler like you, Becky Lynch. That's what I want. I want you to train me to be like you. And God, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, I literally was crying. There was tears. There were tears. They were flowing down my cheeks. I was like, oh my God. And if you don't cry at that promo, then you're dead inside. You are truly dead inside.
This made me look forward to their match at Halloween Havoc more so. And then, we're continuing the storyline because immediately after that plays, backstage, we get, we get Mackenzie interviewing Lyra Valkyria, talking about what this match means to her. And Lyra begins to say that it's an honor to fight Becky. She's excited. She's been building to this her whole entire career. Also, I want to point out that in that little video package, I love that they touted that these two these two women, Becky has become a superstar, and she is the now, and Lyra is like climbing up in her own right and is literally being touted as the like successor to Becky, which makes me extremely happy. I was like, that's an honor. And Lyra says this, and I want to say interrupted, but also kind of like coming into frame is Tegan Knox, who is also an NXT alum. I love Tegan so much. Like me and JVL are so biased. We love Tegan so much, but Tegan tells Lyra, she's like, I'm super excited for this match you are going to have with Becky, but I feel that the match I had with her on Monday Night Raw wasn't my best, and I want one more shot at her before you get your chance at Halloween Havoc. And Lyra was like, excuse me.
I
I was
know, it
like,
was so funny.
I'm not going to let you take this title opportunity away. I was just like, I've been working my entire career toward this moment, and I'm not going to let you take it. And so what this eventually leads is that these two are going to fight each other next week on NXT, which I'm excited for. Listen, Tegan versus Lyra is going to be great. I'm so excited. And I'm sure Becky's going to be watching. So I'm excited for this.
Me too.
And then this is where things kind of start going downhill just a tiny bit. So this was like the first 45 minutes or so. And me and Will, as we're watching this, we're excited. Like they kicked it off with a bang. Like we had two great matches. We had an awesome video promo. We got Tegan versus Lyra next week. What can possibly happen that could bring them, it down a little bit? And then, okay, I want to preface by saying this. I think John Cena is an important figure in WWE wrestling. He has such a long career and has achieved so much. But John Cena's promo that he cut in the ring, I was like, this is the Cena that I see all the time when he comes back. It's thanking the fans, being the face, like being the good guy. And I'm like, John Cena, I love you, but other than being in Carmelo's corner, like, why are we here? And I get it because you're going head to head with AEW Dynamite, so you got to pull out all the stops and get the numbers and whatnot. I'm like, but you didn't add anything story wise, and I like you, Cena, but you didn't really add anything. So John Cena comes out, he does the Cena promo where he thanks the audience. NXT is the place to be. There's a lot of talent in there, which I did appreciate because half the time main roster wants to pretend that NXT doesn't exist, but it does. So I'm just saying. And then Cena gets interrupted by somebody who needs to fire their tanning specialist, Mr. Braun Breaker, on the borderline of blackface, just a tiny bit. Braun Breaker comes out and he cuts the heel promo, saying that I respect you, John Cena, you're a legend, but you basically your time has come to leave, old timer, yada yada yada. And so then he tries to attack Cena. Cena retaliates and tries to put him in an attitude AA. And then Braun escapes. And then that's how that segment ends. And by the end of this, we paused and we talked about it. My biggest question is, why was this here? I feel like we could have done without this one because it didn't really add to anything. If we had taken this out and everything else occurred the way that it did, I feel like it would have flown more cohesively and better because this didn't really add anything. I would say it's just like, oh, people are getting involved. Let's make this a tag team match. And then I would be like, okay, that would have been cool. But no, this was just a segment for Cena and Braun. Am I excited for the eventual face off when they face off against each other in the future when Braun goes up to main roster? Absolutely. I think that match is going to be great. But honestly, this didn't need to be here. Will, I know you had some thoughts last night when we finished watching this segment. So now that we've had a night to meditate on it, what are your thoughts?
Okay. So, God bless you.
Thank you.
So, this is probably going to be get myself in hot water, but I don't like John Cena at all. I don't like the character. I don't like. I mean, he's probably a great, not an amazing humanitarian human being outside of this, but I do not like. I am not a big fan of the Boy Scout. It's why I don't like Superman. It's why I don't like Captain America. It's why I don't like John Cena. I'm tired. I don't like the Boy Scout
Well, guys,
because
this was a great episode. Thank you for tuning in to the 4 months that the Biconics has been around. Nah, I'm just kidding. Listen, we here at the Biconics stand firm that everyone can have an opinion, and their opinion is important and it matters. So, Will, continue on, please.
I think that this promo was completely unnecessary. I think it went on way too long. I mean, it just kept going and going and going and going. And then Braun comes in and it continues to go and go and go and go. And then they're back and forth. Oh, okay, whatever. Braun, I don't know what the hell you want to be. I don't know what you are. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you are. You're driving me crazy. And then, Cena being you're saying bad things to me. You just need a hug, basically. And I'm just like, this is dumb. This is dumb. It didn't get exciting until Braun smacked him. And I was like, well, thank God. Somebody finally hit somebody because I was getting to the point where I was ready to get in there and hit somebody. I was like, this needs to stop. Y'all need to shut up and fight or go away. That's literally because you're right. John Cena for the 90% of this promo was just him talking to the audience about nothing really. I mean, honestly. And I was like, okay, this is weird. I didn't when he came in. I was like, okay, John Cena. Okay, that's cool. I get he's a legend in wrestling. I get that. And I respect that. And then he just gets up there and he starts talking. And you know me, Mikey. You know me and talky promos. I'm just like, put it in a video promo and let's move on. A short video promo. This I don't even know how long this went on. It felt like hours. And I literally was like, oh, God, what is happening right now? I mean, literally, I feel like it just brought the whole episode to a screeching halt. Because here we come in with the first match, which was on fire. It was brilliant. And then we got into the pub rules match, and that was just exploded the place. And then we had that beautiful video promo with Becky and Lyra. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pumped and I'm emotional. And yeah, let's go. And then here comes John Cena and literally hits the brakes. And I was like, oh, okay. So by the time we got to the end of this nightmarish thing that was happening, I was already to the point where like, oh, okay. It was gone. All that wonderful energy and excitement they built in me was gone. It just got sucked out of the room. And I'm just like, this was so unnecessary. I mean, all of it was. I mean, literally, Cena could have been doing an interview backstage and Braun could have ambushed his ass. And then I would have been like, there you go. We didn't need all of this. I just felt that the talking went on way too long and it was completely unnecessary. I mean, it was. And again, and then of course, I'm very much like, oh, here we go. Another main roster here, taking our time, taking time away from the matches that I want to watch because of my NXT folks. Because as I was telling Mikey, I feel very protective of the NXT wrestlers. I do. And I mean, I haven't been here very long, but I have really latched onto them. And so when these main roster folks come down and take their time, because I'm like, this is time that we could have been spending on another story, like somebody else's who is far more interesting, like Dijak and Eddie Thorpe. Let's continue with that. I'm okay with that. This whole thing, I don't get. I didn't understand this. It was literally like, oh, look, it's Superman and like Lex Luthor. It's literally that was what it was. It was it was the good guy, the bad guy, and then bad guy hits good guy goes after bad guy runs off twirling his mustache, going wah, and it's exactly what it was. And I was just like, okay, all right. Are we moving on now? Because I was literally done. I think at one point I pulled my phone out and was playing games on it. Because I couldn't listen to it anymore. And
so that was bad. Then we got a little bit of a palate cleanser because Cody Rhodes is backstage and he runs into our NXT Tag Team Champions, the family, which is Tony D'Angelo and Stax. And essentially, what this turns into is that next week on NXT, we're going to have the Bada Bing Bada Boom Battle Royale, where essentially it's just an over-the-top elimination. So if one person from the team is eliminated, then the whole team is gone until we get to the final two teams, and then it turns into a regular tag team match. And then the winner of that tag team match will become the number one contenders and will face the family for the tag team championships at Halloween Havoc. And I was excited. I was like, okay. And then we got the placard towards the end of the bumpers. I was like, there are 10 teams involved. I was like, this is a lot of meat in this ring. It's going to be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, cool. Okay, so we're picking it back up. And then I wanted to die. Because then after this, really quickly, Mackenzie's backstage and she interviews Baron Corbin. I will summarize what has happened real quick, so we're not going to spend too much time on this. But Baron Corbin basically calls everybody in the locker room soft, and is talking about Ilya, how Ilya is like Two-Face and is not a real champion. And then before he can continue, LA Knight's music hits because he's going to be the special guest referee for our next match. But I was just like, please get Baron Corbin off my television screen. And now I present to you the heated angel moment of the week. William, go off, sis.
This man. I literally was like, we had just come off the whole family and the tag team thing, and it was super fun. And I was like, oh, this is great. Okay, here we go. We're going again. All right, we're picking up. And then it flashed, and I swear to God, all of my life force drained from my body. Because I literally was like, oh, good God. Why do they let this man talk? Stop. Stop letting him talk. I would rather a small person in a clown costume come out and talk than him. Because, good God. First of all, I'm going to call it like it is. Baron Corbin in this moment was a whiny little bitch. Because all he was doing was like, oh, why aren't I fighting Ilya for this? Why is everybody else fighting him? Boo hoo hoo. Everybody in the locker room is so soft and I'm so strong because I'm the only one that can bring him down. And I'm like, can someone please stuff a dirty jock in this man's mouth? Because I am sick and tired of hearing him talk. I'm sick and tired of it. And I say it over and over again. They need to pay for elocution lessons for this idiot and learn how to public speak. Because, and let me tell you, when LA Knight's music came on and Corbin's face was all like, oh, I was like, thank God something shut him up. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. Because I was literally about to throw something at my screen. Because stop putting him in front of the camera. Stop it. I don't care what he has to say. I don't care. Don't care. That's like when he and was it Breaker that fought, or who was it? It was him. And,
yeah, it was Breaker at No Mercy.
Yeah, that was the match. That was the one match of the whole night. I was like, oh my God, can we just fast forward it? Because I really don't give a shit. I don't care about him. And I'll say it again, and I'll read for those people who may just be watching us. I don't care about Baron Corbin because he doesn't give me anything to care about. Negatively or positively. Braun Breaker's the same way. I don't know what he wants me to take from him. If these two wrestlers would give me something to hold on to, then I could be like, okay, you're a bad guy, but I kind of like what you got going on, and I like what you want. You want this thing? Okay, I'm on your side because there's plenty of heels that I like, and there's plenty that I don't. But these two, I don't give a shit about them. I literally don't care. They could literally a bus could fall on them, and I'd be like, oh, okay, what's next? Because this every time this man appears on the screen, I am just like, stop. It literally makes me want to vomit. So please stop. And I'm pretty sure that the man is probably like a kitten in real life, but this character he has built, I don't understand it. I don't know what it wants from me. So I don't care. Until you give me something to care about, I don't give a shit about you. So every time he comes on and he talks like, like he's got marbles in his mouth, I'm just like, please shut up. Please stop. Take the microphones away from him. Have someone come out and read a statement from him, please. Like, I have a statement for Baron Corbin. I would much rather hear that. Truly. God almighty, stop. Stop. It's like,
And that has been your heated angel moment from my co-host, Will. Oh my goodness. Well, unfortunately, this will not be the last time we see a Braun Breaker. I'm not Braun Breaker. Well, both of Braun and Baron. Braun wasn't as annoying to me this episode as Baron was, but we'll get into both of them later. Because up next, we had an NXT Championship match where Ilya Dragunov was defending his title against Dominic Mysterio. I think this was a serviceable match. It was fun. Nothing too crazy happened, but the ending sequence is where it was at. So Rhea gets involved because, as she normally does. Towards the tail end, Ilya looks to win, but then Finn Balor, the Judgment Day, comes in and LA Knight knocks him flat on his butt. JD McDonough of the Judgment Day walk in, and LA Knight, our guest referee, hits his finisher, the BFT, the Blood Force Trauma. While LA Knight is distracted, Rhea Ripley attempts to hit Ilya Dragunov with the title, but he ducks. And then as she's going in for a second shot, our boy Trick Williams runs down and pulls her off the apron and is holding her. And then there was a fun comedic spot with them looking at each other. They're like, ah! It was like, nope, 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 no, 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 no. And then eventually, the Ilya hits the Moscow torpedo for the win, and the winner and still NXT champion is Ilya Dragunov. This was a serviceable match. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's what I was expected. I did not think for a minute that Ilya was going to lose, but then I was just like, oh my god, I've been trained by WWE for them to pull some stupid ass shit like they normally
Yeah.
do.
We
But
knew that.
but I'm
We
glad
knew.
that I'm glad that Ilya retained. I was like, don't do this to me.
Yeah, I know, me too. Because I was telling, I was like, it makes no damn sense. It would make no damn sense if Dominic took the title from him. It would make, story wise, it would make no sense. So I was very much like, I don't think he's gonna lose this. I think it's gonna be close because because of shenanigans, which we knew was gonna happen. We knew Judgment Day was gonna come into this. We knew it because Dominic can't play fairly. We all know that. But the greatest thing about this match is it gave us something to think about. When Trick Williams came in there, I was all like, "Oh, what's going on here? I wonder." And
Yep. We wouldn't have to wait long to figure out where this was going.
no, man, it gets good.
And we're going to talk about that next. But after this match was over and Ilya is celebrating, Baron Corbin's music hits, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what is about to happen? And then we get the swerve pulled on us because then Dijak, of all people, comes in and attacks Ilya from behind, exits the ring, comes face to face with Baron, says, it's like, I beat you to it. Ilya is mine. And essentially, this sets up next week. We're going to have a triple threat match between Dijak, Baron, and the winner of tonight's main event, because we didn't know at this time, but now we know, which is, we'll get into it a little bit. And the winner of that triple threat is going to Halloween Havoc to fight Ilya for that title. I'm so excited. This is going to be great. I was like, oh no, Baron. Ooh, Dijak. This is interesting. I was like, oh my god, please let Eddie Thorpe be involved in this in some way.
Please.
I was just like, I'm loving this Eddie and Dijak story that we have gotten so far, and I want to see more of it. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, we mentioned this literally a couple seconds ago, where we're like, ooh, what's going to happen with Trick? And then we get our answers. So initially, we start out with John Cena talking to Carmelo Hayes backstage. They're having a chat about, since John Cena is going to be in Carmelo's corner tonight in the main event. And then Trick Williams walks in. Carmelo tries to apologize to Trick for not being in his corner for his North American Championship match last week on NXT. And Trick's like, bro, we can talk about this later. John Cena is right here in front of us.
That was
and
so
then,
cute. That was so cute.
He's like, bro, we got John Cena's here. We don't get this opportunity all the time. And then, of course, I love John Cena, easing the tension. It's like, you can see me? I was like, I see what you did there, Cena. It was funny. But then we get into the juicy bit of this whole entire thing. So, Cena reassures Trick and Carmelo that, they're friends and that they'll be champions again. And then Carmelo says that once he's done dealing with Braun, he is going back for his NXT North American Championship. Paused for a couple seconds and then acknowledged to Trick, be like, oh, and your NXT North American Championship too. And I was just like, full on villain stroking the mustache. I was like, oh my gosh, we are further replanting the seeds for when these two eventually fight and have a feud. It's going to be great. And this time, Trick was not okay with it. Like again, the physicality of the acting we saw on Trick's face, that he was kind of not vibing with that statement.
Oh no.
So then Carmelo excuses himself because he has to go get ready for his match. And then Cena and Trick are kind of like watching Carmelo go off. Cena turns to Trick and notices that he still got the stank face on. And then Cena's like, "Hey man, is everything okay?" Trick's like, "Yeah man, everything's straight. I'm good. But hey Cena, let me ask you a question." And then this is where it gets juicy. Because then Trick asked Cena, "Hey Cena, when did you know it was your time?" I was like, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then I was shocked afterwards. Cena's just like, he breathes in. He's like, "All right, let's go talk." And then they both walk off screen. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Listen, listen. Like, if this is how we want to use main roster stars, let's. Because John Cena did a great job continuing to be used as an asset to further the development of this Carmelo and Trick storyline. And I'm just like, and it was done in a way where he's like, "All right, man." It's like, because I was expecting Cena, because he's like, the Boy Scout is like, "Hey, man, that's your friend. You shouldn't." But Cena's like, "All right, dude, let's go talk about it."
Let's go talk about it.
Like, this is when you know, like, I want to know what the conversation was. I want to know what they talked about. Because, again, we're continuing to build Trick to be this big time star. And I'm super excited. Cena did a great job of uplifting Trick in this scene because it's still focused on him and Carmelo instead of him. And again, he didn't do the Boy Scout thing. He's like, "Hey man, that's your friend. Maybe you shouldn't fight." He's like, "All right, let's go talk about this." And Cena's like, "You probably don't want to be a dick and betray your friend, but these are like, again, I want to know the conversations. Like, this is when you'll know that it's your time to go solo and then go after, whatever you need to." This was, outside of Becky and Lyra's little video package, this was my favorite backstage segment because of the fact that Trick Williams was probably the biggest talking point in this whole entire little minute segment that we got backstage.
Oh yeah, and it started back in the previous match, but a couple of episodes ago it started, because that was when Ilya approached Trick. Remember that? And he's like, "Hey, it was I'll try buddy with him, like Ilya is. He's classy." And then I was so like, "Oh my god!" When he came in to help Ilya, I was like, "Oh shit! Oh shit! This is it! This is it! Like, this is the moment! This is the moment!" And then we had that backstage segment, and my eyes were on Trick the whole time, because he came back, and this is typical Trick, which is both what I love, which I think is one of his biggest strengths and yet one of his largest weaknesses, is he is so trusting and so loyal to Carmelo, because he came back there full on like, "Man, I'm here. I'm in your corner. I'm your buddy." And then the minute Carmelo opened his mouth and said, "Oh, hey, man, sorry I wasn't in your corner last time, but, I thought you didn't need me, so I left." And I was like, "You are a shit." I'm like, that man is supposed to be your best friend, and you just walked out on him. And, and Trick's like playing it off. He's like, "Oh, we'll talk about that later." He's like, "Oh, John Cena's here," which I thought was such a cute moment, because it was like fangirling almost. And he's like, "Oh my, John Cena's right here, let's be cool, let's be cool." And then and then Carmelo's talked about, "Oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna get my belt back, or my title back." And then it was like, it felt like that pause ran for forever. And I was like, because he said it, and I was like,
"Yep, cut the tension with a knife."
And you could see the look on Trick's face. I mean, when he said it, and I was just like, "Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go." And he's like, "Oh yeah, and we're gonna get yours back too." And I was like, "Oh," Trick's like, "Oh yeah, sure, bro, sure, whatever." And then Carmelo's, "Well, I gotta go," and he left. But the look on Trick's face when Carmelo left, I was like, "Oh, that was it. That's it. That's it. It's done. It is done." I think that was the final. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And then he's all like, "Hey, when did you know it was your time?" And I love, and this, I agree with you. I love Cena in this particular aspect as the one who, like the veteran, who's like, hey, let me tell you how, what it's like, from my perspective, because I was there once. Let me tell you what you do, what you don't do. And so I really kind of liked that as a mentor. I liked that role. And then he takes him off, and I was like, oh, this is going to be beautiful. And I really I still think they're working up. I know they're going to work Trick up to be a solo artist, but I think he and Ilya are going to come together at some point. I really do. There's something in my bones that's saying that Ilya and Trick are going to they're going to do something together. I don't know what, but they're going to do something. And I'm super excited for it. I'm super excited. So,
I'm really, really excited, and I cannot wait. Again, I can't wait because this is going to be really, really good. So after this segment, we get a little teaser because we go into the parking lot, the NXT parking lot, the most dangerous place in America, from what we've come to learn. And out coming out of an Escalade, I believe it was, is Miss Jade Cargill. I was just like, listen. It was at this point that I paused and I gave Will like the backstory, be like, hey, this is Jade. She is from AEW. She's now gone over and signed with WWE. And we both agreed. I was just like, Jade is a very pretty woman. She is a beautiful, beautiful woman. And she's also very smart. So for those of you that don't know, Jade is a child psychologist who also happens to wrestle. So she is the beauty in the brains. And she meets with Shawn Michaels in the back. And, Shawn Michaels takes her inside so they could get a tour. We're still teasing that now that Jade's here, she's going to make her debut on one of the brands, probably some before the end of this year at some point. But I love Jade. And then we go into the backstage area where really quickly we see Dominic and Rhea coming out of the doctor's, the medical facility. And Nathan Frazier, of all people, is like talking to Dominic, and it's just this like, bro, you suck. Like, you don't represent that North American Championship well. So I'm like, ooh, Nathan versus Dominic at Halloween Havoc? I'm here for it. I'm not going to lie. That match is going to hump. It's going to be so good. And then, something that was also good, but unfortunately was also really short, but, it is what it is. We got our next match in the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament where Lola Vice took on Danny Palmer. Danny Palmer showing off her athleticism in this match, but I'm telling you, man, Lola Vice's kick, so I'm just like, oh my God. Someone died. Like, Danny Palmer died in this match. It was insane. Again, I do wish these breakout tournament matches were a little bit longer because I could I'm not going to complain, but in this case I'm kind of okay with it because the breakout tournament, these are women who are being showcased, who are like new to WWE and NXT, so of course they're still learning the ropes, so you don't want them to go too long. But I thought this was a great match. And man, I was so excited. And then we saw the tournament bracket, and Kalani Jordan and Lola Vice are on opposite ends of the bracket. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want them to be on the same side because I want those two to fight. And who knows? My hope is no shade to the other women because I got to see how the other girls do. But I want to see Lola versus Kalani Kalani in the finals of this tournament because I was like, that match would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think this match should have been longer again. But I think I see what they're doing. I think they're trying to trim it down quickly. So they're like, oh, short matches. Get it. Basically, get through everybody and get to the two we actually want to fight. Is what it's starting to feel like. Like, oh, let's just get through these minor matches quicker. And which is unfortunate because some of these both of these women, man, they were throwing it down. I mean, Lola Vice, man, she was brutal. And I was just like, damn, some of those hits she was making, I was like, ooh, I think someone might need an ambulance. I mean, the slaps, man, those hits were like loud. They echoed. I was just like, oh my goodness. So yeah, I agree. I think this match was way too short. I mean, that just drives me crazy. This is again, I'm gonna go on a soapbox. This is what drives me crazy because I always say this: 9 times out of 10, a lot of the women's matches are way better than the men's matches. They really are. And I don't know if it's because the women have to work twice as hard or what it is, but man, some of these women's matches put the men's matches to shame. Truly. I mean, look at that first match of this episode, and I would put that up against like Dominic and Ilya, and I would be like, the women's match was better. I mean, way better. And Dominic and Ilya, I mean, personally, that match should have blown me out of the water, and it didn't. It was really kind of like, oh, okay, it served its purpose basically. And but yeah, these women, whew, man, it took my breath away. I was like, dang, they were fighting, and I loved Lola. She was great. This was my first time seeing her as well fight, and she was, oh, I loved her. I loved her attitude. I loved her dancing in the ring. I was just like, I like you a
Listen,
lot.
my spicy Latinas will always be on my good side because I love my representation of my Latina wrestlers because there's not a lot of them, surprisingly, on Western television. So,
Can I
and
just say,
go for it.
unrelated to wrestling, but when you talk about the Latinas, you get so Hispanic. You like get so Latin. I mean, it's wonderful. I love it but you're just like, I mean, you can hear your whole tonality changes, and I think it's great. I think it's great. I'm not. I mean that as a complete compliment, but yeah.
Oh no, I know. We're friends, and so I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And if I can just go on a side tangent before we continue on, my respect for women's wrestling is always there. Doesn't matter, but
Mhm.
especially Latina women wrestling because of the fact that, well, listen, I am Latino myself, so
I
I
know.
want to.
I just love it though. Because when you and I are talking, it's like two
It's
white
very
dudes talking.
casual.
It's like two white dudes talking, to be honest. And then you get all Latino up in here, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like
I think for me, there's a reverence when it comes
love.
to, because I don't like using the term Hispanic. I like Latino and Latina to describe,
Yeah, that's fair.
men and women. But my reverence for like female wrestlers like Lola and Electra and Roxanne, like my girls of, my brown girls essentially, my reverence for them comes from the fact because I love women's wrestling. I respect the hell out of it. But more importantly, so just from a personal standpoint, I respect strong brown women.
Mm-hmm.
So like again, to get a little personal here, because we here at the Biconics love to show our personal lives sometimes. My mom is a very strong, independent brown woman. She is a very fiery Latina woman. She raised me right. She instilled all of the importance of like honor your culture, know where you came from, respect yourself, and respect others. And she has, through thick and thin, she's been through a lot, and she's just remained steadfast and strong with it. And because of how strong that I've gotten to see firsthand, I can see those kind of similar traits in my women wrestlers. And that's why I gravitate towards women's wrestling a lot of the time, is because a lot of those women characters, and just when you find out the stories of the individuals behind said characters, there's a lot that they go through. And especially because, a lot of the women in general have to like punch through the glass ceiling, and in professional wrestling, it's like anything. These women have to work 10 times harder as their male constituents to get an equal, if not just the same amount of like screen time that these men do. And that's why I love women's wrestling, because they tend to be better than the men's because they know what's online and they always deliver all the time. So,
Yeah,
and
I
yeah,
totally agree with you. The reason I love women's wrestling is because I think it's very empowering. for women, and I think that women, especially younger women and girls, need those sort of positive role models, and I love it. I think it's fun. Plus, one of the other big reasons that I love women's wrestling is because I'm a big homosexual, but and I love my girls. I love when my girls fight, and but I agree with you, and I think that women's wrestling has such a heavy weight on its shoulders because it's both empowering to women in general, but especially now. And what's so great, this has a lot to do with what we're talking about, but with women's wrestling, we are seeing like a majority, and this is in NXT and Impact. I'll give Impact a shout out here too, but is that we're seeing a lot of women wrestlers of like people of color, people POCs, and like Trinity is like over in Impact, it's kicking ass, and here we've got Lola, and we've got Roxanne Perez, and we've got other women who are not just typical white girls, that are like really, really kind of putting it out there. And it's one of those wonderful things, like me, and I can speak on it as like a gay man. The very, very first time I ever saw a gay character on television, I can't tell you how empowering it was. Because suddenly it's like, oh, wait, I'm like normal like everybody else. It's like, I can be this? Oh, okay. So I just think, with women's wrestling, I mean, it's wonderful because if I'm a big crowd watcher. I like to watch the crowds. And when the women are wrestling, watch the audiences because you'll see young girls in the audience watching, not just sitting there with their parents bored. They're like watching. And that is wonderful because now it's like, now you've got role models in the ring whooping some butt, showing that they're powerful. And the other thing is like, this is why I like Becky Lynch so much, is because talk about an amazing role model for women and girls because of her whole idea that yes, we can be opponents, but we don't have to be enemies. And it's like we can support and build each other up as opposed to tearing each other down all the time. And I love that. And I think that, and a lot of my women friends will say when we've talked, they're like, unfortunately, women like to tear each other down. And I think that's a societal thing. So when you've got wrestlers like Becky Lynch or Trinity over at Impact, who are very positive, who are very much like, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, just get out there and do it. I think that's fantastic. And that's why I love women's wrestling. Men's wrestling isn't like that at all. It's very much like, we're just here to beat the shit out of each other. But women are like, we're here to show you that women are just as powerful and just as talented as men are, but with more grace. We do things more gracefully. We gracefully kick your ass. So yeah, so I agree with you. I think, and I love the fact that we're seeing more women of color in wrestling. Like, we know they're out there, but we're actually starting to see them in the ring more, and I love that.
Agreed.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to jump on that soapbox, but yeah.
No, that's okay. And listen, I always say this to my Caucasian, your Anglo-Saxon, European, whatever you want to call it, like my allies and my friends here at the Biconics, because you guys are in such a really good position to use your voice and to amplify, what's being said for all of us who aren't necessarily able to have that same space. And for me, it's important here at the Biconics for all of us, regardless of our orientation, our race, our gender identity, like all that stuff. The nine of us have really come together and we all agree on the important bits. We love women's wrestling. We believe in supporting wrestlers regardless, and we all have different opinions, but we can all respect the hell out of each other. We can have a civil conversation even when we have those differences. And to me, that's the important bit here. But Getting back into the review, after Lola and Danny, we do get a small Chase Hughes segment where Andre Chase, Duke Hudson are in class, and then Thea returns to class, but only under the pretense that JC was allowed to come. And I love that JC's being a little shit stirrer.
I do.
It
This
is.
this
Listen,
whole
I
sequence was
I
brilliant.
love I love the messiness. I love messiness, and it is so much fun. But essentially, JC's there. They sit through. Andre Chase is trying to give a lecture on the history of Halloween Havoc. But then Thea and JC are talking, and then they check their phones, and then that's when Andre goes off about social media and cell phone uses.
So funny.
Poor Andrew, the extra, like, dude, like, Andre Chase took his phone and chucked it at the wall and left. By the way, it left a dent. By the
It
way,
did.
I was like, oh my gosh. And then JC kind of takes the opportunity to turn it around as a good thing. It's like, I was just showing Thea, like, you and Duke are in this bada bing bada boom battle royale, and we're looking at the new number one contenders for the tag team championships. And then the whole class is like clapping, and Duke's like, see, they're not that bad. And then he turns to Andrew, like, right, Andrew? She's like, dude, my phone.
It was so funny.
But then the best part of this whole thing is JC walks up to Andre Chase. Is like, this was fun, Professor. I was just like, I can't wait to continue. We're going to have so much fun next week. And Andre Chase is over it. And as he turns his head, we also see JC turns hers, and she's like, ugh. I was like, ooh. I was like, she playing everybody. Just don't play Thea, please. But she's like so over Duke and Andre Chase. I love it so much. Again, I love Thea. I love Thea and JC. I love JC being a little shit stir. I love Duke Hudson slowly coming around to this, and Andre Chase is like, no, I'm still not having it. I don't trust her as far as I can throw her.
Yep.
This was fun.
Oh yeah, this was such a great sequence. I said it from the very beginning. I don't. This whole JC and Thea thing is fantastic. I love it, and I hope, and like we have said multiple times, I hope this is like a legitimate thing. I hope that whether Thea leaves Chase University and goes off on her own, or goes off with JC and they become some badass tag team, whatever, I'm here for it. I just hope it's not a play, because it's like, I mean, is this JC's way of destroying Chase U from the inside? I mean, which, yeah, that's kind of a cool way to look at it, but I really want Thea to be what she is right now, because I love it. Love it. So, yeah, this whole sequence was fun. It was so fun. And it was the last bit of fun we were going to have for a while.
I would say that the last women's segment we get before the main event was a lot of fun for a variety of reasons,
You're right,
which we'll talk about. Okay, so I'm going to preface by saying this. We cannot repeat what was said on our recording last night for the Patreon because YouTube will demonetize us, and we'll probably get this video removed from the platform. But we get a backstage where, see, better lighting definitely helps Braun not look like he's committing blackface, because the lighting in the locker room was better than those stage lights. But as Braun Breaker, again, out of context, this looks bad. He has the exercise rubber band, and he's like doing like the lifts with the resistance training. But like, because of the way that the camera angle was positioned, I look like, are we about to watch a Cisco music video? Like, what's about to happen? And then coming from literally from behind, like in the background, Paul Heyman pops his head out and has this conversation with Braun about how Braun's great. Roman Reigns appointed me to come be in your corner tonight. Carmelo, literally, it was like King Kong ain't got shit on you kind of vibes. It was intense. And then I paused at the wrong. This was the first time I paused at the wrong time, because as I paused to talk about this, listen, I introduced William to the world that is the underlying homoeroticism of Paul Heyman, and it is uncomfortable, and we hate it. Again, we cannot repeat the things that were said on the Patreon exclusive, because this video would get removed in a heartbeat. But let's just say We were one bearskin rug away from having a Burt Reynolds scene, is how I'll leave it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Will had lots of thoughts because, again, you could cut the sexual tension with a knife.
But was I wrong?
No, you weren't wrong.
No, I was not wrong. I mean, it was, yeah. Go check
And
out
this
the
is
Patreon video. It's like,
listen,
ooh, my lord.
if you if you really want to know how gay Will got, like, let's just say the Patreon exclusive really confirmed is like, no, he is
Oh
a
yeah,
big homosexual, as he puts it.
huge,
Ugh.
huge.
I was uncomfortable during this whole entire thing because Paul Heyman did not help the situation. And just the positioning of where he was at and the camera angles and everything, I was like, I'm literally about to watch a soft core. Like, what kind of corn is this? Like, we're about to watch corn, you guys.
Corno is about to happen.
Oh my
Corn.
goodness.
It
So
was.
we're immediately going to move. Okay, so upon our first view, we didn't get to see this vignette, but then as I was rewatching it to make sure all my notes in order, then this little Brian Pillman Jr. thing popped up. And I was like, wait a minute, how come we didn't get to see it? So I literally had to send the video link to Will. I was like, okay, we need to watch this because apparently was not on our feed last night, but it was a part of the show. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been getting teaser vignettes of like a new male NXT superstar who is probably going to be debuting soon. And all these teasers have played like old school, like wrestling videos from WWF, WCW, and then even bits and pieces. But this one around, we got bits of the main roster, main NXT, like the current day. And then we get this little promo from Brian Pillman Jr. So for you wrestling fans, this is the son of Brian Pillman, which if you know anything about him, um let's just say there was a couple of screws loose and then some. Like, he is the most one of the outside of he who shall not be named and Mr. Benoit himself. Brian Pillman is also very infamous in the wrestling business. Go watch the Dark Side of the Ring documentary as well as do a quick Google search, and then you can find out why he's such an infamous figure. And Brian Pillman Jr. here cuts his promo saying this is like, everyone has fond memories of my father. They always stop me and tell me, hey, your dad was such a trailblazer. Everyone has such fond memories of him. And then he's like, but you know who doesn't? Me, his own damn son. And then this is where the promo turned. It's just like, I lost him when I literally wrote this down. I lost him while he was 4, and being a WWE superstar was the last thing I wanted to do. I did football, lacrosse, hell, I even got a college degree. But this business is in my veins, and this one really stuck with me. It's just like, I am out to inflict hurt upon the business that hurt me. And then we end this promo by saying it's like, I'm no one's junior, so I'm going to take on the last name of the real man who raised me, King, which I'm assuming refers to Jerry the King Lawler, but who knows with that. And then he's like, I'm about to do what I need to. And then with the remote, he clicks it, and then the promo shuts off like a television. So, Will, we talked a little bit off camera. You had some thoughts upon this latest addition to what we were discussing. First of I Before we get into it, I enjoyed the promo. I thought this was one of the better ones for a new superstar coming soon kind of thing. I am fully aware of Brian Pillman Jr. He is also coming over from AEW, which I think was a crime that they didn't do anything with him because he is a legacy kid and he is a talent. I will say I hate the chin strap beard. Like, I need that to go. That was it's so prominent. Like, it's like black and brown hair against like blonde on
Mm.
top of his head. It was literally, he was like one shade of pink away from being a Neapolitan ice cream. Like, this is what is happening. But overall, I enjoyed it. I'm excited. I think he's going to actually debut in the men's breakout tournament whenever we get that. So, but Will, you had thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on this Brian Pillman Jr. Promo we got?
Okay, well, I didn't know who he was. Sadly, I'm sorry. I have heard of his father. I've heard the name. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of familiar with that name, but I didn't know him at all. But I thought it was funny when he's all like, who did this, that, and the other is like, and I'm not him. Basically, I'm going to be my own person. I want to have nothing to do with him. Blah blah blah. And I was like, and the whole time I had my eyebrow cocked when I was watching it because I was like, you say that, but you look just like him. I mean, intentionally. I mean, he's got the hair, the facial thing going on. I mean, it's like it looked like he was trying to be his dad. Like, I want people to look at me and go, "Oh, hey, that's Pillman's boy." I mean, it was literally like, you're basically him, dude. You can't sit there and say, I'm not gonna be anything like him, blah blah blah. And it's like you literally look like his twin. So you're like, no. And then I didn't know what that severe darkness was. Like, it looked like a hairline, like up in the temples areas. And then the beard was the same way. It was that, it almost looked like it was painted on. And I was just like, what is this? What do you do? Oh God, this is going to be another one of those. It's like, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? Because I don't know. And I'm just trying to figure it out. Already, I don't even know you, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell you are. And so it's like, this is going to be another one of those I'm living in someone's shadow, but I don't want to be there characters. So I'm going to do everything I can to make people see that I'm not that person, but yet in doing so, it makes me look like that person. That's where I feel this one going. So I'm just like, okay. I mean, I didn't have a truly negative or positive thing about the guy, but because I don't know anything about him, I was just like, for someone who says you don't want anything to do with your dad, you sure are trying to look like him. I mean, seriously. Even in the way he was dressed, I was like, they showed that one picture of his dad when he was younger, and then the little bit of what we saw of him, like full body almost, it was like identical. I was like, you literally like it's your dad sitting here, and I was like, I was just like, what is happening? I don't know. I just thought it was funny. It was a good promo though. I mean, it really was. I just didn't know. I don't know what I was supposed to get from it. Like, other than I'm coming to the fold. But I'm like, well, okay, that's great, but am I supposed to care about you? Because
Right.
you didn't really give me anything to care about.
Right. I think I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic because this is the type of promo we usually see, the I'm coming to NXT promo. So it's just like, okay, I need to see him actually wrestle. I need to see his on-screen character work, like in the ring, backstage. Like then I can truly assess. But I'm personally excited. I I know that his in-ring ability is gonna be great because I mean he's been doing this for quite some time. And I again he is coming from AEW, and over there his in ring is really really good. But I'm interested to see where his character work goes. So then, before we get to the main event, we had a backstage segment where Asuka is meeting some of the women of the NXT women's locker room. First up, it was Blair Davenport, and even though it's like the equivalent of like a white person talking in Spanish, but you know what? Again, like I was pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that Blair knows Japanese. And then Will's like, oh my god, Blair just is speaking Japanese. She already went to the top
I
of my list.
know. I was like, wow.
Like her and Asuka were having an actual conversation a little bit in Japanese. And then that's when I explained to Will that Asuka and Blair were in Stardom, which is an all-female wrestling promotion in Japan. And so that's where I know Blair from, is from Stardom in Japan. So Blair knows a little bit of Japanese because that's where she was for a little bit of her career before going to NXT UK and then over here to the States for NXT. So I was just like, it was excited. And then Fallon Henley brings on over like one of the girls, like the behind the scenes extra girls, like, and this is all starstruck. And then as Fallon is ready to go shake Asuka's hand and have a conversation to her, who should cut in front of Fallon Henley but Barbie Quinn herself, Tiffany Stratton, who is looking pretty all right after having a hellish match against Becky Lynch at No Mercy. And she literally basically is just like, ugh, all these people are poor, but Asuka, you're cool, so we should talk sometime. And Asuka's like, yeah, that's cool, I'm gonna head out. And then Tiffany and Fallon kind of exchanged some words before Tiffany leaves, and I was like, ooh, Fallon Henley versus Tiffany, let's go. Like, I'm excited. It seems that those two are going to be feuding, which I'm cool with. I love this women's segment. It was a lot of fun. Then we get the bumpers for next week. So we have the Bada Bing Bada Boom Battle Royale. We have Lyra versus Tegan Knox, which I'm super excited for. And then we have that triple threat to see who is going to face Ilya at Halloween Havoc. And then we get to our main event, Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Breaker. John Cena is in Carmelo's corner, and Paul Heyman is in Braun Breaker's corner. To be completely honest, we still could have had this match without those two because they didn't really add anything to this match. And unfortunately, I also paused at the wrong time where it like zoomed in on Paul Heyman's face. And it is at that point where I put in the Biconics text chat that I have in our text messages, where I told the Professor John, I was like, I introduced Will to the underlying homoeroticism of Paul Heyman, and we hate it here. This is like,
Yep.
the face he made was just, go watch the
It was.
Patreon exclusive to see what we're talking about. It was, again, it was super icky. It did not make me feel great. I'm gonna be honest. Like, this match was fine. It was fun. I think they did pretty well, but it was, I wanted more. And I know they can do more, but it was fine. It was serviceable, and I do agree with Carmelo winning because So now Carmelo's going into the triple threat against Dijak and Baron to see who's going to face Ilya at Halloween Havoc. So if we had ended it right there, I've been like, oh, okay, the main event was okay. And I was like, but it was still fun. It was great. And I thought, you know what? That would have been a nice way to end the show. But no. So Braun Breaker throws a titty tantrum and he attacks Carmelo, which I'm actually kind of here for. Like, that was pretty cool. I was like, this is the Braun I want to see, where he gets mad and he destroys everybody. Like, that's what his character needs to continue to be.
Yes.
So then Braun on the mic cuts a quick promo saying that he's the baddest dude in NXT. And then the familiar gong of the Undertaker hits, and Undertaker comes out as the American Badass Undertaker. He gets into the ring with Braun. He basically is like, hey, you young whippersnapper, let me lay some truth on you. You are the future, but there's always somewhere bigger and better. And then he chokeslammed Braun Breaker as the show goes off the air for the night. And I was just like, really? This is what we're ending it with? Sure, fine. Listen, I think the Undertaker as a wrestling character has such a grandstanding legacy that without it, I don't think you would have many of the wrestlers that we have today. However, the individual behind the character, I don't necessarily like, for the way that he's talked about nerd culture, as well as his political views, don't necessarily gel with me. And that's okay because, being a human being, we don't all have the same viewpoints. And, if I were to have a conversation with him, I think it would be a very nice experience in terms of, like, we would learn something, we could talk about each other. But I just hated that we had to, the Undertaker had to be used in this way. I was just like, I feel like we could have just ended the match with Braun attacking Carmelo, and then maybe had Cena like hit an AA on him to end the night, and I would have been more fine with it. But I guess it was okay. Undertaker did the thing, but sure, fine, whatever. But that's how we ended the night. Will, what did you think of our main event and the post-match shenanigans that occurred?
I thought the main event was okay. Like I said, it was serviceable. It proved its point, and I was like, okay. Which means, which I like because it's one of those things that Braun Breakers talks so much shit, and then when he gets in the ring, he loses every damn time. I mean, it's like you're talking all this shit, but you can't back it up. So Carmelo, and I will say this, that Carmelo Hayes barely won that match. I mean, barely, because Braun Breaker was ruining him. I was like, oh crap. Oh crap. I mean, he could have literally destroyed this man. I was like, ooh, okay. Because we all know Braun's track record, and it almost happened again in this match when he picked up those stairs. Luckily, Cena stepped in, but I was just like, oh, okay. And then the match happened, and I was like, okay. And then it ended, and then what we thought was the end, and then Braun attacks Carmelo, and this is where my problem starts. Again, by no means am I dissing the Undertaker by any means, because I think the character itself and what I know of the Undertaker is pretty badass. That's cool. However, this is my point. When you bring these guys into NXT in moments like this, where they come in riding on their steed to save the day, and here he comes on his motorcycle. First of all, exhaust fumes inside of a space. That's gross and negligent. But he comes in, gets off his motorcycle or his horse, and gets in the ring and stares Braun down, and then they do their thing. But I was just like, all this says to me as a fan watching NXT is that NXT wrestlers cannot solve their own issues. That's what it's saying to me. I would much rather have seen NXT wrestlers coming in and basically taking Braun out. That's what I want to see. I want to see, and I know that, Carmelo has really kind of burned a lot of bridges, but I think nobody likes Braun Breaker. Nobody likes him. So I could see literally anybody coming in and basically, saving Carmelo. And then that would have been so much stronger than having to have Daddy come in and discipline everybody. And I thought it was a crappy ending. I did. I thought it was a crappy ending. Because, and again, I've had this conversation with Mikey many times. I just think it's like, oh, we've got to bring in the main roster people to do the hard stuff because these guys are still young and can't do these things. So what kind of confidence do you have? If I was an NXT wrestler, I would literally be like, but first I'd be like, oh, wow, it's a wrestling legend. That's amazing. Why are they here? Oh, wait, they're here to save the day? Well, what about, me? Why can't I be the one that goes in and helps save the day? Or, why can't Hank and Tank come in and to help save the day? Or, or the family even. Anybody else. Or hell, even some of the women. Have Becky Lynch come in there and whoop his ass. I would have been like, okay. I would have been on board with that 1,000 times more than the Undertaker coming in and saving the day. It pissed me off, and I took time to think about it too, because it pissed me off when it happened, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm just overreacting. So I took the day and I thought about it. I literally thought about it. I actually talked to some of my students about it because I was like, okay, I need to talk this out. So I was telling them, and they were like, well, that doesn't seem very fair. I was like,
love the fact that you talk to your students about this. That makes me happy to hear.
Oh yeah.
They're like, all right. I was like, I don't know if you actually watch wrestling, but let me tell you from a character perspective of what happened.
That's what I do. I talk about wrestling from an acting standpoint. But I was telling them, and from storytelling, we talk about storytelling. Wrestling is part of it. And I was telling them about the whole thing, and I was like, and then in comes. And, they didn't know who the Undertaker. Well, some of them, actually, a couple of them didn't know who the Undertaker was. And I was like, he comes in on his motorcycle and rides into the ring, basically, and goes in and basically stops Braun Breaker in his tracks. And my students were like, well, that doesn't seem very fair to the other wrestlers. It's like, why are, I had one student who literally was like, Why did they have to bring somebody in? I was like, that's my point. That's my whole point. They didn't have to bring somebody in. They did it for ooh ah value, and that irritates me. You know, you know what I would have loved to have seen, even though they don't like each other. I would love to have seen Ilya come in and like knock Braun's ass down on the ground, and then pick Carmelo up. That would have been a stronger symbol, a stronger image than fucking Undertaker coming in and doing it. And it just pissed me off. So all day today, I started getting even more brewed up about it. And my
You're
students,
just like,
you
I'm
know,
gonna tell Mikey all this when we review tonight.
yeah, I was just like, it just pisses me off. And I'm just like, these guys, these men and women at NXT work their asses off to build these characters that they're building, to create these relationships with one another. Both, whether they're face or heel, they build these beautiful relationships between these characters, and then then suddenly out of nowhere, you get like the Undertaker coming in to save the day. And it's like the NXT people can handle it. Let them do it. And like I said, I think it would have been a much stronger symbol if Ilya had come in and saved Carmelo's ass.
Oh my god, I'm so tired.
So that is my whole thing. And I was just like, that whole ending just pissed me off. I thought it was stupid and I hated it. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So yeah, so that's my
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that is how we end NXT this week. So let's just go into ratings. I think for me, I'm going to use an out of 10 empanada scale. So I think for me, this week's NXT, I would give it a 6.7 out of 10. And a 6.7 is not necessarily bad. I just think, again, because this was like a pit stop, because, going up against AEW Dynamite on Tuesday, because, you know, they AEW decided to have their show on Tuesday instead of Wednesday because no one wants to fight baseball. And, that's fair because the major sports always kill the professional wrestling because
right.
it's so niched. But I think overall, I think this is a fun show. The first half definitely was the strongest half of the show. And then once we got to John Cena and Braun Breaker's promo, it then kind of like had it peaks and valleys for the rest of the time. It kind of sucks because you started strong with Roxanne and Asuka, and then the pub rules like street fight match between Butch, Ridge, Tyler, and the Gallus boys, which was great. And there were some fun moments, like in the second half, like Trick and Carmelo talking with John Cena, Trick talking to Cena, Blair and Asuka having a conversation in Japanese. I'm interested to see where the Brian Pillman stuff goes. But the second half was weird pacing, and again, overall, we're trying to build toward Halloween Havoc, and outside of Becky and Lyra, and then the triple threat we're getting next week to see who faces Ilya. Like, this was kind of like a throwaway episode, and that's kind of sad to say. It's kind of a throwaway because we got some story developments, but I feel like we could have did this anyway, so that we didn't need to load the card with main roster. I will say though, between Dynamite and NXT, the real winner of this was me because this is a good thing for wrestling to see so much fun stuff. And I did have a good time with NXT, but objectively, this didn't really do much to build towards Halloween Havoc, which is what, we're coming up to next. So 6.8 out of 10 empanadas is my final rating.
Okay. I give it I give this one a 3.1415925. No, I'm just kidding. I want a piece of pie. That's all. No,
Me too.
no, I probably roughly about the same. I'd give it probably a solid 6 out of 10. I mean, if I looked at it as a standalone, it was okay. It was pretty good. Again, it did not lead us anywhere. I think there was a lot of wheel spinning in this episode, unnecessary wheel spinning. You know, it's almost like muscle flexing. It's like, here, let me flex some muscles for you so you can see what we have, and kind of make you fall in love with us or something, that sort of thing. And I was just sort of like, nah, I'm good. It's like, and you're right. The first half started off so strong, and then we get into some of the stupid shit backstage, that long ass Cena promo, and of course, anything with Baron Corbin in it. And I was just like, and I think that literally after that Cena promo, for me it was sort of like, okay. On the individual matches were okay, but the lead ups to them were not good. And other than the minute backstage stuff that we got, and of course the Becky and Lyra video, it was like, why did we even waste our time on this? It's like, because it just felt like, and there was some good, like the pub match and the first women's match, and even the second women's match between Lola and
Danny.
Thank you. I was like, my damn brain went out. Like those were great fights. They were really good, but it just felt like they were just sort of like thrown in, really. And this really kind of seemed like an episode about John Cena. I mean, honestly, after the first two matches, it was the John Cena show. And because he was everywhere. I was like, oh, okay. And there were some good moments, like with the one between him and Trick. That was great. But I was just like, I don't know. I hate episodes like this. I hate it. Because it's like, why waste a good episode when you're leading up to this big event? Why would you waste it? Because this was a waste. I'm sorry, but it was. We got nothing relevant out of it. On it. I mean, truly. We got a lot of like, oh, here's what we're going to do next week. And it's like, well, you could have done some of that this week.
Mm-hmm.
And use this episode as, I still say this, that I think they have like all of these veteran wrestlers sort of like in a box in the back somewhere, and they're like, oh crap, their expiration dates are coming up soon, we should probably use them. And it's like, that's what it feels like in these types of episodes. It's just like, oh gosh, this John Cena is about to go bad, we should probably use him. Oh, here, let's put him in this episode. It's like, and I'm just like, ooh, this Undertaker, ooh, he's way past his prime. Let's throw him in there real quick because he smells like spoiled milk. And it's just, I don't know. It just felt weird. I know I say that a lot, but this episode was just, I don't know what the hell it was. I really don't. Like I said, I enjoyed a lot of the individual matches. Absolutely. I thought the wrestlers did what they were supposed to do, and they did it well. And then I love me some Asuka. I think she's fantastic. And I love Lola. I think she's fantastic. And I'm even excited for this Pillman guy. I'm kind of excited for him too. But it's just like, what the hell was the point of this episode? It's like, don't get me wrong. I like a good hey, let's watch some wrestling. Just to watch some wrestling. But I felt like a huge portion of this episode was all talk. Think about it. If you think about if you put all of the talking bits together, it's longer than the wrestling bits. And that's where I'm just like, if you just want to do a wrestling episode where everyone just wrestles, then just do it. Don't try to fill it with crap, because we'll watch it. The fans will watch it. If you put random ass matches in there, I'll watch it, because I'll be like, ooh, what are they thinking with this match? It's like, I don't know. It's just weird. I'm just like, Urgh. So anyway, that's me. So 6 out of 10.
Well, Well, unfortunately, this does bring us to the end of another Los Chicos Gordos review. Next week will be the pen. It can't be the penultimate episode. Hold the phone real quick. Let me double check something real quick. Uh, well, damn, I stand corrected. Next Tuesday is the penultimate NXT because we are officially 2 weeks out as of this recording from the first week of Halloween Havoc, which is going to be a 2 week special. Like how during the summer we had the 2 week special for Gold Rush where titles were on the line in those, which was a lot of fun, by the way. So yeah, next Tuesday is technically like the big go home show leading into the 2 weeks of Halloween Havoc. And then, as soon as Halloween Havoc is over, we begin the full 5 to 6 week build towards NXT's last pay per view of the year, Deadline, which is in December. I'm excited. I can't wait for that.
Very cool.
But that is going to be it for us here at Los Chicos Gordos. If you like this review, you can check us out here on the YouTube channel, where you can check out all the other weekly TV show reviews, as well as the pay-per-view reviews here. We have a lot of them. We pretty much cover everything. And honestly, we have a pretty good team of 9 individuals across everything to give their different opinions and takes. It's great. You can also follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod if you want to stay up to date when said videos go live. And we also have clips now of parts of the episodes for your viewing pleasure. And if you like what you see there, you can always check out the full reviews here on YouTube. And if you thought these thoughts were unhinged, you should check us out at the Biconics Wrestling Podcast itself, where we are more chaotic and more unhinged in our wrestling opinions. It's a great time. But for me and Will, your Los Chicos Gordos, until the next review, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, stay biconic, you beautiful bastards. But until the next review, we'll see you later. Ta-ta for now.